So, we're here at the Cove
Yep.
with proprietor of the Code, Chay West.
Yes.
How did you get to this, and why haven't you gone out and got a normal job?
I've had plenty of normal jobs, and I think the fact that they were all normal jobs probably made me decide that this was probably a bit more for me. I don't know, you know, when you just like, I don't know, how old are you guys?
Yes.
38? That's just to make myself feel better, because I was 37 last week. But we're all 30s, we'll say.
Early 30s, I'll say.
So we're all in the same
in
bracket.
that.
I'm 36.
I'm established.
30s.
I'm happy about being 36 because for 3 months I thought I was 37, and then someone pointed out to me, it's like, no, you're in the same year as me. And I was like, oh yeah.
Well, we're all in our 30s, so we're all one. I've done it. Yeah, I've done every job you could think of, really, and none of it was for me long term. And I think it was a couple of holiday trips, a bit of travelling, kind of got me in the thinking, you know, maybe not initially when I got back from these certain places, but it was always in my head and whoever I was with head that this was the sort of thing that would probably carry us through in the future. And I can't remember the exact date it would have been, but I think it would have been a trip to Barcelona, getting to grips with all the stuff that are going on over there. They're very similar shops in like the back streets of the city and stuff, off the beaten track. And those sort of things just stay in your head, and you think to yourself, well, there's nothing else really that's going on like this here. Didn't really have any plans, and still don't really have any plans to move away. So why not create something that's a little bit different, and make it your own? Also kind of taking in the sort of experiences I had with the previous job that I had before this, which was working at like Top Man. So the kind of the fashion retail environment was in my head anyway at that point, and you know, it was all I was really doing. So I thought I can take all that and bring it down here and roll with it a little bit. And kind of 6 years later, it'll be 7 years this October.
I was just about to say, how long have you got the shop now?
Yeah, 7 years in October. So, but it doesn't feel like that, weirdly. I mean, other people say, oh, you've been here a long time, and it doesn't. It still feels new and fresh, but I think that may be down to the situation I'm in now, where I'm, you know, going it solo. It has refreshed it, if you know what I mean, and now it kind of feels all kind of exciting again. But yeah, it's crazy, like how it's just kind of snowballed from an idea on holiday to kind of becoming your way of life and providing for you and your family. So,
And just tell us a bit about the last 12 months being a retail business owner.
Unrelatable, I think, just in the sense of not being able to be in the business that you're here daily with, and you know, it's all you know for such a long time, and then being told to, you know, stay at home and try and adapt that way through, you know, whether it be online sales or, you know, social media interaction, that becomes your job. Something that I wouldn't say a natural at, but I've learned how to kind of progress it a little bit.
I've quite enjoyed watching your social media last time.
Well, but that's not come overnight. That's come with just assessing the situation and just seeing that, well, that's maybe what people are looking for at the moment. A little bit of comic relief and not so forceful with the sales, and that almost comes with it because they can kind of relate to your personality a little bit, and they buy into the business that way. It's almost like give them the jokes and then like, here's a t-shirt. So, but yeah, I think I can't compare it. I'm much like, you know, anyone else in this situation, specifically self-employed people that have had to kind of down tools to an extent and kind of sit back and wait for official guidelines to kind of be lifted, and you know, it's tough, and it's still tough. And I think the crap part of it all is it's so stop-start. I think, you know, none of us knew what this lockdown was going to happen the first time round, the longevity of it. And I think it was a bit easier in the sense that the weather was better. I think that definitely helped. So it was almost like a little bit of a mini break.
I think that's how a lot of people viewed it, didn't they? The first one.
Recharge a little bit, just take stock of what you're doing in life and in your workplace. Mm-hmm. You're allowed to go back to work, and you're thinking, right, here we go. This is us back now. We've had that little kind of, stop, and then another month you have to lock down. Was it November? Was it November that we had to lock down? I think non-essential.
I can't remember.
Yeah, it all goes a bit blurry after like month 2.
I mean, there was lockdown 1, wasn't there? Which was sort of this time last year into Easter.
So that lasted about 3.5 months.
Yeah, we sort of June time. It was then, right, we need you all to go into pubs and restaurants now, and we'll cover half the bill.
Yeah.
That's it. We're back open. Then it was okay. We probably need to lock down for a little bit again now, but we'll be back up and open for Christmas. So don't worry.
It was November.
Like lockdown 2 was a bit like didn't really execute it that well, did it? Like the difficult second lockdown. And then
straight to DVD.
And then we did Christmas, and then it was like, right, lockdown 3. And lockdown 3 was kind of the same as lockdown 1, but because we all knew what happened in lockdown 1, we knew what the ending was. We haven't really taken it all as seriously. And it hasn't felt like a lockdown.
It's felt normal to me, which is kind of like, I wouldn't say worrying, but it just shows you how much has changed in the last 12 months.
And I suppose like how adaptable we are as humans. Like we've just adjusted. It's going to be much weirder going back to not wearing masks when you go shopping and things like that.
Do you think that'll happen like in the next few months?
I think there will be people that will just wear masks for all of time now.
I think that's just the way they are now, isn't it? I think
someone said to me the other day, I can't remember who it was, that they will just wear masks on like public transport and stuff like that for forever, basically.
Well, they did in China, sort of post SARS. That's just been the case now, hasn't it? Yeah. That's just what happened.
It's weird how you would look at that and think, what are they doing? And now it is just the way of life, isn't it? Everyone at the moment, but in the future that probably will stick around for certain people.
Regarding like being in lockdown as you described, then it's been volatile, been open, closed throughout the last 12 months.
Yeah.
Would you say that, so there's obviously a lot of kind of implications for you. One, I guess finances, the stability of finances has maybe been a stress, worry?
It's funny because I'm probably in a better off situation than I have been before lockdown, and it's due to, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but when you're in here, I'm a bit trigger happy with like getting stuff done, and if I want something, I'll get it in. And when you're in that working environment every day, you're just thinking to yourself, and you play off the customers as well. They come in and they're looking at stuff, and maybe they haven't found something that they quite like, but they've hinted at what they may want, and then you think, well, I'll get online and try and find what I can now. And then obviously as well, just you go a bit overboard then. You think, well, I'll get that, but then I'll get this and this and that. And before you know it, you've spent more money than what you probably would have made just through that person wanting that maybe one thing. So it feels like, I don't know, I've been a bit more strategic with how I release things in here. Obviously with my own stuff, but also with the retro stuff. I've been a bit more controlled, but I think that is down to the fact that, like I say, I've stepped off the pedal a little bit and not been in full work mode. I've been able to kind of take myself, whether it be with Kitty or Jem, I've got that time to just come away from it, which is a good thing.
That's what I was going to say. Was it, so weighing up the stability of your finances, knowing what roughly you bring in each month from retail, or actually just being in the shop and having a routine, what's kind of been what's the thing that you've strived for more in terms of getting back?
Right now, the routine. The routine and the social life, which go hand in hand with what this shop is. It is essentially what my social life is. I don't do anything else, so the people that come to me and the people that spend time in here talking is the way I kind of interact with life in general. I don't do a lot outside of work. I'm very kind of private with my life, I don't kind of don't go out every weekend, or I don't kind of, hang out with 10 people. I don't think I know fucking 10 people at the moment, but you know what I mean? It's the routine is the one. Like I say, for that honeymoon period, it was a case of, I can do this. The weather was good. I'm talking about the first lockdown now, where barbecues at 10 a.m. The fridge was fully stocked with beers, and you're about ready to go to bed at about 3 p.m. because you're crawling up the stairs again. But that went quite quickly, and I think it was also, then we go back to the structure of how we've been allowed out of lockdown and then going back into it and then going out of it again. It plays with your mind, because you set yourself up to be this way of life, and then it's like, right now we've got to change it right again. And it's a big part of getting the feel of the shop back again then as well, because you feel that Christmas was brilliant, and it was great because so many people were coming in, and I was loving the fact that I was seeing everyone and people were spending money, which was great. And then it's like January comes, and it's like, well, we'll take that away for another 3.5 months now, and it's like, well, yeah, that's all well and good for health reasons, I guess, but when you're running a small business and you rely on the trade of people coming in, and it's almost like you talk them into things sometimes. They'll come in looking for something and they'll walk away with 2 other things that maybe they wouldn't have necessarily been looking for. You can't do that online. People, you can show them the website, they'll look at it. If they want to buy anything, they haven't got me perched on their shoulder being like, well, you can't leave because you haven't spent any money. I wish that was the thing.
You do realise that goes perfect with that. So.
Do you realise you can't leave the website without spending 50 quid? Which, I don't know if we can make that a thing. We'll see what happens in the future. But yeah, I strive to have something to do now. I think it's got to the point, and winter didn't help. The weather, just dark, miserable, raining, post-Christmas, so the excitement's over. It's always a difficult time of year, like January, February, and I can get to that a little bit within my personal situation as well, but the beginning of the year has always been a bit of a, recently, more than most, has been a real hard time. So you're just constantly looking at that calendar, urging on the months to pass and spring to come round and kind of things to be on a bit more of an upper, rather than it just being housebound hibernation mode, completed Netflix 15 times sort of thing,
I'm working my way through it slowly but surely.
It's got a good ending.
So you say about personal situations, so generally start of the year tends to get you down anyway. You want to open up a little bit more about that?
I mean, that's probably a real big reason of why over the last, I'd say 3 years especially, it's been real difficult. Not a lot of people know, but obviously when I was young, all through my youth, like from when I was born until I was about 25, I lived with my nan and granddad, with my mum. So it was a bit of a kind of dysfunctional setup. Never lived with my dad at all in my life. Although he was always there, it was a weird setup. And again, there's something, within that kind of makes it a bit more sense of like what that situation was, in time. But so my nan and granddad were essentially my like second mum and dad. Obviously we've got quite a large family, like cousins and things, and we were all very close to them. But for me it was a little bit different because obviously I was there every day with them. They seen me grow from a child into a man, and especially I think because I didn't live with my dad, and you just strive to have that father figure in your life, and my granddad was that. And it's weird because I never really kind of showed it on the outside growing up, but I think that's because you took it for granted. I think you grow up and it's just that constant of always being there, and just that comfort blanket of having the man of the house that you look up to, and you never really want to let down, but you also kind of you just feel safe with just doing what you want.
Help you put your bike together, and sort of blokey.
This was pre-bike, but
but even like bicycle, like
I think football. I mean, it's weird because he's a big Arsenal fan, and I was a Tottenham fan, obviously. So but we never let that get in the way of kind of, us bonding over something like that.
Yeah.
It was very kind of light-hearted with our kind of digging into, he had more right as anyone to dig me out because Arsenal were good, and I mean, you still question that now, but
Yeah.
So he got diagnosed with Parkinson's. I can't even remember what year it would have been. And obviously that news is big, but you don't comprehend how big it will be, like long term, because you've never understood it. You've never heard of what the after effects of it were. And I guess because I was at that age where I was doing other things, I never really stopped and thought, I need to look into this and see kind of how things are going to change in the future. And before you know it, and obviously, life changes. I moved out. So we kind of grew apart in the sense of everyday life being together, to kind of checking in now and again, because my mum was still living there. So I'd go up and see her too. So you kind of lose track of that everyday life with that condition and kind of how it escalates in their body and mind. So, I mean, long story short, he got put into hospital I think it was over Christmas one year, and he never came home. That was not in the sense that he stayed in hospital, but the care that he needed for what he had, it was getting to the point where dementia was kicking in with the Parkinson's. So the tough decision was made that obviously my nan would have never been able to cope with the situation. She's like, she was half the size of him. You need to like shower people and put people to bed, and if he falls over, I mean, what can you do? My mum's at work all the time, I'm not there. So the decision was made that he'd be put into a home, like a care home, and then that was kind of the beginning of like life changing a little bit. Although life had changed because I'd moved out of my home, and obviously I was in a relationship, and things were going really well in that sense. Life was like taking shape, and obviously the idea of this place had kind of spawned and really kind of putting your marker down on where you wanted to be. But obviously at home, away from where you are, these things are happening, and you've got no control over it. And as much as you want to be there to make sure everything's okay and make sure everything's okay in your head, it's just not going to go away, and it's just going to steadily decline until the end, really. So I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago now. Obviously he passed away, and it was it just hit me like a ton of bricks, just dropped on you. Because I think as well, he never really got a chance to come in here, because it was around that time, especially when I opened the shop, this is where it all started to happen with the dementia and like him becoming a bit more frail and not really coming out of the house as he used to. So things like that always stay in your head because you wanted to show him what you'd become. You think, Grandad, I've made it. Like, this is what I'm doing now. Obviously, he may not relate to anything that I'm doing here, but the fact that you've got your own business and you're making it work, and it's exciting, and it's something that you finally found for yourself.
Did it take the gloss off the shop at all?
In my head, because you're just thinking about it all the time. I think your passion starts not dwindling. That's I can't say that. It just takes a bit of a back seat to kind of what you're thinking in your head with everything else, because it's starting to kind of unwind and become something that you're just totally unequipped to deal with at that time. As long as you can think that you're as strong as anyone, but until these things happen to you, you don't quite really understand, do you? And it just kind of hits you. Like I say, it just hit me really bad. But I think, and then going off from there, my nan never recovered from, because I forget how long they were together, but they were husband and wife for a good chunk of time, and they were she adored him. And you can die of a broken heart, and that is, I will use my nan as proof that you can die of a broken heart. And
I was just going to say that exact same thing happened with my great auntie and uncle. I mean, they'd been very old, and Uncle Hugh had been quite poorly, and then but within not long at all of him passing away, suddenly like auntie, who seemed to be fine in context because she'd just been looking after him, then as soon as he went, it was like, well, the purpose and everything like that sort of just disappeared, and so she deteriorated
soulmate
really quite quickly.
So
was that almost harder to watch?
It was horrible, and it was. Go on.
I was just going to say, in my head, like, I've often thought about when one parent may go before the other, and as much as that is difficult to process and come to terms with, what scares me more is the person that's left behind, which really kind of troubles me as to how they're going to feel and how I will feel, and the responsibility and stuff like that. So it's just interested to hear whether...
Well, for me, it was a case of, because I wouldn't say there was like I was closer to one than the other, because I couldn't say that, but there were certain things that you could relate to more with, like your parents, isn't it, from one parent to another, depending on what the issue is. But I probably felt like I would have had a lot more in common with my granddad. Maybe being a man thing, I don't know. A bit more common interests in hobbies and things, and sport and stuff like that. You could probably have a good conversation about anything like that.
I suppose he was the male parental figure at home sort of thing, you know, 100%. Whereas you had mum at home, and then you had...
and dad was on the periphery of it all, you know? I mean, that's a story all in itself, which contributes to kind of, you know, how I was feeling at the time. But my granddad going, and then my nan not knowing how to deal with it, and just literally giving up. You could see, you see in someone's eyes, they've just gone. The body's there, but the mind is gone. And, you know, she lost lots of weight. She wasn't eating properly. She just become... I wouldn't say recluse, but you know, gets from being outgoing to just stopping, or just stop wanting to do things. And it's weird because I haven't really spoke to this about anyone, but because it happened in such a short amount of time, and because I don't think, because I was so hit by what my granddad, you know, meant to me and him going, that I don't think I really put all my grief into what happened to my nan and the after effect of losing her. Like, for instance, you know, little things like at both their funerals. I mean, you know, I cried my eyes out. I think if it was the other way round as well, I think if I lost my nan, then it could have that knock-on effect on if, you know, another family member had gone.
Do you not think there's an element though of like when you lose granddad, and you know, I don't deal well with funerals at all. You know, I could turn up to a stranger's funeral and still be just don't like the whole process. But do you not think there's an element that you're almost sort of crying for her a little bit as well, because it's not only like the fact that he's gone, but you sort of look over your shoulder or next to you and like Nan's there and like what's she gonna do?
It's almost like a...
Whereas then it's no less tragic when you lose someone, but there's almost an element of like, well, they're gonna kind of be together now, and you know, it's not any less sad.
I know
I
what you mean.
suppose
That did cross my mind, and I'm not really a spiritual or religious person in the slightest. But the thought process is, if that can stay in your head that may be a thing, then you hold on to that a little bit.
Or even that just the loneliness stops, if that's what she was ultimately feeling.
I think that, definitely. I mean, every time I saw her up until the end, it wasn't her. And that's hard to, again, relate to someone who you've grown up with, who is your second mum. And it's just like, you don't even know what to say, because she's probably not really interested, because she's just fully in grief mode. So it was that space of a year when that kind of, those two things happened, as well as kind of like my personal relationship breaking down. I think that was like a big part of kind of what made it erupt into what it did to me. Just not knowing how to be at home, avoiding going home to an extent, staying at the shop as much as I could, very minimal in communication, and just completely shutting off and not being me. And then and you do that for so long that it almost officially changes you, if you know what I mean. It kind of, you lose, and I've been told that to my face, you know, this ain't you anymore. Like you've completely changed. You know, this is not how you were to what you are now. And I think, well, I get that, and I agree, but at the same time, there's nothing I can really do about it. It's what my mind has worked against me on. You know, it's just the case of you've shut yourself down from wanting anything to work, wanting to kind of open up to anything, you know, about anything to anyone. So it really kind of, you know, put a line in the sand of where things were probably going to cross over.
So outpouring of emotion, obviously funeral and stuff.
Yeah.
But what about, did you? Because it sounds like now you're talking about it, and it's quite clear and obvious to you. You know exactly how these events affected you, and the sort of timeline then, and how they made you feel. At the time, I guess you're a business owner.
Yeah.
You're a dad at this point as well.
Yeah.
So how well were you communicating what you're quite able to look back and talk about now? How were you communicating that at the time?
What, in terms of like
how you were feeling and how things were affecting you? And
nothing. Like talking to a brick wall. Just keeping it all in my head. To the point, I mean, I've got a big head anyway. Like naturally, whatever way you look at me,
you wear it well.
Big. Yeah, I've tried to break it up a little with a hat and a bit of facial hair and the long hair, you know. But you probably felt this as well. But you know, where you've got so much in your head that this part of your head hurts. You know what I mean? Where it just it's clogged with stuff that you can't. You don't know how to release. Sorry, you don't know how to release it. You know, there's no valve that you can think of, other than the obvious. What people will say, like, well, "You've got to talk about it." And it's like that's easier said than done. When you've got that much stuff clogged up, but not only clogged up, it's spinning about.
It's easier said than done when you don't know how to do that. As simple as like talking to someone.
Because you've never done it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not something that comes natural. It's never come natural to me. And again, that you know stems from the way I grew up and maybe the situations that what my family were in. You know, and you know I could go into more depth with that as well. But yeah, it just I'm very much I like to just kind of keep myself to myself to the point where it works totally against you and it kills everything off that potentially you've worked your life for. Or you've grown to love, and you know relationships just completely fade away. So yeah,
because I'd say because you are classic bloke mate of ours. So like 2 years ago, Paddy had played football with you. I knew of you from football circles and knew you were the cool guy with the shop and stuff. And I think we approached you.
Edit that out.
We approached you. We approached you, didn't we, about teeth, about merchandise and things.
Can we just merge that together with the Chay, the cool guy?
Chay.
Yeah.
That'll be the intro.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then put some like really cool colours like coming in or whatever. But yeah, carry on.
So about a year ago, we came to you to talk to you about teas. You know, we were doing our campaign. We started launching it. We'd realised that like just climbing the mountain probably we'd need to do a bit more around it. So we got fundraisers and stuff, and everything. Like you were like, absolutely, I want to do whatever I can. I want to do this. I want to do that. For that football match, I haven't played for years. I'm in. Came down, scored a screamer. I mean,
concussed from that.
If we can cut, if anyone's got that video like of that goal, it looked. I was right behind it. It was great. If we can,
I don't remember.
If we find it, but then it got concussed.
Yeah.
But then literally, wouldn't have been able. You helped design the t-shirts.
Yeah.
And every step of the way, you were like, I want to do whatever I can. I want to do whatever I can. At no point did you give us any context as to because we had lots of mates that were proud of us and wanted to help. And stuff.
Yeah.
But then we've had a handful of people that were just seemed to be going over and above, but for us at that point we'd only just got to terms about talking about things ourselves. You know, we weren't, and we're still not experts, but we've since done a bit of training, delivered a bit, and kind of got forced into being better at talking to people about them, not just about ourselves. And so never any context. And I suppose it was just, was that a way of you sort of communicating, you know, or did it
like laying
did it
the
help?
foundations of maybe like thinking that could help me?
Yeah,
because it was a bit more relatable, because it was a bunch of guys that were probably feeling similar to different situations maybe to why you're feeling it, but totally relatable in the sense that they're opening up a little bit as well. Yeah, probably a lot to do with that.
Maybe you weren't even conscious of it, you just naturally gravitated towards it
Maybe.
because of like...
Yeah, there may have not been a massive thought process to it, but I think, you know, sometimes things just feel like you need to gravitate to that without there being a deep reason to it, but it just feels right in your head. You think, well, yeah, that's one, it's a great cause, two, it's people that you know, and it's, you know, you want to help. I'm you know, I pride myself on not only the shop being, you know, what it is, but the fact that it's a community sort of hub, you know. You try and help as many people as you can. And it's even better when you work side by side with people that you know, and you know you've almost grown up with in your sort of, you know, adult life in one way or another.
But I mean, because like, I mean, I've you know, I've been in business and I help people that are in business.
Yeah.
Like charity requests are, you know, 2 a penny. You know, I would be surprised if you didn't get at least one a day when like you're open.
You will get a lot of people.
Can we have a raffle prize? Can we?
Yeah, no, that just comes.
But you, because we talked about the football match, talked about the t-shirts. Then you set us up with Stacey and Millie for the skate jam, which you know didn't just set us up another.
A good thing or a bad thing.
Well,
we've inherited them for life now.
I mean, I've
opened the doors.
I've made a best mate for life in Millie. Like, it's a good thing from my point of view.
Take credit for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know, you were almost a silent partner in our campaign. But silent being the operable, is that a word? Did I add an extra syllable?
Don't know, but you could do a few more. But edit that.
I'm sure we could drag it out. But silent partner being the, you know, the apt word. That was it really. I mean, we never really sat and thought, I reckon Chay's all right. But it was kind of like,
and I think that goes. I could really kind of go into that a little bit more in the sense of that could well be a thing, you know. Just, you know, people would maybe think that afterwards. Think, well, has he got involved because of maybe something for himself as well? But I get a lot of. I'm very open with like people coming in the shop and spending time in here, and I love it to an extent. There's within, you know, you will get people that will just, you know, they want to spend the day here, and I love that they want that. But then you've also got to remember that you're at work too, and you have to do some work sometimes. I wish I could spend, you know, unlimited time with everyone, but you just can't, and sometimes you do have to just crack on. But I think sometimes people forget the situation that you may be in. I think they look at, and it's no ego thing at all, but you can come into maybe a shop like this and think, wow, he's got it all, maybe. You know, he's got a business here, he's, you know, things look like they're going really well. Maybe I'm just going to like dump a lot of problems on the desk to talk at him with. And I don't think, you know, I'm not even saying that as a knock on anyone, because, you know, I'm flattered that people would come in here and share their problems with me, and it happens a lot, you know, more than you would think. And I guess I'm grateful that they think that, you know, they're at ease and comfortable enough to open up to me, because at the end of the day, I'm only someone who's sat in a shop. But I feel, because I've made that personal effort with them to relate to them, then it just being more than a shop. You can come in here and have a chat, you can have a beer, you know what I mean? It's just becomes a bit more of a social side of it, rather than it just being solely about trying to, you know, sell something to someone.
The thing is, we could probably do with another 5 or 6 places like this potted around.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's great, and I think, you know, there's a certain demographic that are drawn to it more than most. I think you get a lot of the students that are coming through, and with growing up as, you probably, you know, you see, you know, firsthand, students have issues. You know, they're hitting that almost adult life. It's at that crossroads, isn't it? But
the students of this generation are more willing to speak. That's the difference.
Yeah, and again, over the years, that's how it's kind of, you know, evolved into people coming in here and maybe sharing a few things that probably wouldn't have necessarily been shared before. But I feel that, again, that's down to them feeling comfortable with where they are and who they're telling it to. But then you've got someone on the other side of the desk that's sat there, and they've got, and I'll go back to it, this clogged head of just stuff that you have no idea on how to get it out to anyone.
Don't know where to start.
You don't want to kind of put the burden on the person who's asking you about advice for their problems, because you think, well, no, I want to help them. I want to kind of be there for them as best as I can and offer the advice. But in your head, you're almost like not really taking a lot of it in, because you've just got all these thoughts about how your life is declining and spiraling.
Yeah.
That it's hard to kind of put it all into context and get it out to them again and be like, well, this is what you need to do. This is, you need to go see this. Yeah. And it's a bit hypocritical as well. Yeah. You could really say that. The irony is, I'm giving them all this advice and I'm not taking any of it myself.
Oh, we've had that loads, haven't we? Said we often, when we first kind of
felt like a fraud.
Yeah, when this first came to life,
it is fraud.
It's like an imposter syndrome. People were coming to me and Rich and going,
"That's a nice new term. Where'd you learn that?"
That's
You're gonna have to put this podcast out first and then the Katie podcast now, so it looks like that was your thing.
It is. But it's true. It's like just because we suddenly put ourselves out there, far from experts, but we had various people, contact us on the Facebook page that we created. Some were just like, yeah, I suffer too, and just kind of offering, yeah, I'm one of you. To others where we were both a little bit like,
out of our depth.
Yeah, I don't know what to say here, because on paper they need help, and we are two people that are trying to kind of raise awareness, but we're not two people that can diagnose or solve your problems. So it can be quite a daunting task.
Yeah.
Having that conversation, I think, yeah, like I say, you probably get it more than most with being front facing and people coming in here. And
yeah.
Sometimes if it's just, I'm having a shit day because so and so's just put a parking ticket on my car, then you can kind of have that conversation. That's normal. But if someone's,
when it goes a bit deeper,
and there's almost an expectation for you to come back with something.
It's almost like they expect an answer to it as well. Like they've come in here for solace. Yeah. They've come in here for the fucking. I can't stop.
No,
that's fine. Yeah.
No, fucking if I knew that. But yeah, you think you can come in and you can give them the answer. Like there's the book. Read that. Off you trot. You come back. You'll be all right next time.
Do you think there's like a bit of pressure though? I mean, you talk about how keen you are for this to be that place, and now there should be more places like it and things. And I'm going to readdress the cool thing. I mean, you turn up on the motorbike with the cool tattoos. Tattoos?
Oh boy.
I have had a really long week. I've had a really long week and 3/4 of a small beer, and I'm saying tattoos.
Tell the brew dog.
Half an Elvis juice in.
Yeah. I was going to say let's put a pause in and then, but you're not going to edit that out, even I ask you to. So the motorbike, tattoos, and things. And so do you feel like it's almost there's a pressure, I mean, not to mention being a bloke, and we've talked about, I guess a slightly different role with your mum when, the father figure that both of you had sort of both had around and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think there's almost a pressure that you've got to maintain a sort of presence of
keep face a little
presence
bit
of
like
cool and
almost like, is it a gimmick?
Yeah.
That you have to abide to no matter what. Yeah, you could say that. I don't know. There's probably elements to that are true. I think it's just the not wanting to let anyone down, and the guilt of maybe being that person that just plays heavy on your mind, and that can go straight into my relationship breakdown over the last years. Just the pure guilt of knowing that you need to make this step to change things, but you're just you're just strolling along and not doing anything about it. You're not changing.
I can relate 100% to that. This time a year ago, I was in that exact place, and then I was a dad of 2 small kids, and so you know, it's almost is it almost selfish to?
It's hard, isn't it?
But then a year on, and you know, I don't want to dig or you know, I don't know where you're at with that, but actually, it's kind of taking that. You know, it's a very negative thing to happen. It's a sad thing. It's never part of the plan. But actually, especially for all the people involved, it's such a positive step. And it's one that I think, you know, where couples do that, it's one they can be proud of.
Yeah, I think we're definitely getting there. I think you're always just going to have hurdles, and there'll be, you know, ones that just come up out of nowhere that just bring it all back, you know, a lot of crap feeling.
Yeah.
But definitely, I feel more positive going forward than I've ever felt since everything's kind of, you know, happened and life's changed. I think, you know, there's certain things that I can think of now and think, well, we're getting there, you know. It's not, you know, all roses and 100% happiness for everyone, and that's just life. You know, everything just can't be perfect. There's no perfect scenario out of this, but it's how you work on it, and there's steps that you can take. Whether it be year on year, month on month, whatever, you know, you get there. But if you don't get there, you try to get there, and then you see where life takes you at the end of those little scenarios. Really,
I think where you share children with someone, you're in a relationship regardless of whether you.
With that.
Yeah, and
so it's a contract, isn't it?
It's still a relationship to manage, and there's still.
And I want that to be a positive thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are heading. Pretty much to a certain degree, there's definitely aspects that feel positive, but I know that there's a lot more to hopefully come with that as well. And I think that is a time thing too, and you know,
it's communication.
It's communication, but it's just understanding of like where people are in their lives right now.
Yeah,
people change, like life changes, situations change. That's just everyday life. That was a lot of, you know, struggles of me not having to change that life because I couldn't get to grips with that. I thought, you know, I'm too scared to change everything. I'm too scared to make a step to be like, right, this needs to stop, or this needs to be this way, that way, or whatever. Cowardly, you could say sometimes, you know, because you're sat there at night and you're thinking, I could just, you know, make this big step towards making things right here and making things, you know, easing the stress and the hate and the bitterness of what this relationship is carrying into. But it's just you're not in that position to do it because of everything else that's happened with it. And that's not an excuse, but it definitely adds to the situation, you know. My grieving process from those couple of years, you know, I can't think of anything else that's hit me worse than that. And there were certain other things that happened, you know, with regards to just finding out things about, you know, my mum and dad's life and stuff, and how that had become a little bit of a different outlook on my behalf, you know, and finding out things that I felt in my head I should be entitled to know from a very early age, and having to deal with that. So all these things just hit you in this short amount of time. It's like someone sticking you in a wall and firing a gun at you, and here's one shot, here's another shot, here's another shot, here's another shot, and you've taken it all in, and you don't really know where to start with the wounds.
Do you think it is? Do you think it's
cringy, maybe analogy wise, but it really did feel like that.
Yeah.
You're trying to patch up different wounds, and you're not concentrating on maybe the one thing to start with that would probably spiral to make all these other things go in order.
I think as well, because none of it's being dealt with. It's all ending up in here, and you say about this pain at the front, and then what happens is they leak into one another, and so I can then end up being. And what I found is when I've ended up in a real low, in a real spiral, it's always due to something really fucking pathetic, or really trivial, or really like that doesn't matter. Like I've let someone down, a missed call in them, or something like that. And it's not that did it. It's just it's easier because I think as well a lot of these things they're really difficult to communicate. Like I really struggled with telling people that I didn't feel like okay when I didn't really have anything to not feel okay about in their eyes. You're a successful businessman, and like you know, you everything's all right for you. Exactly. And then you hear about terrible things that happen, and I think we make the mistake. I mean, something awful happened to a friend of the last couple of weeks, and I then start thinking, it puts my problems into context, but actually it doesn't, because my problems are my problems, and I want to do anything I can to help those people and things, but I shouldn't go, oh well, then I'm going to stop worrying about the fact that I've got this going on, and because actually it is more about everyone just dealing with their own shit, and and so 100%. People coming in and talking to you and stuff, like, well, actually, let me tell you about what I'm sort of dealing with, where I'm going
I
through.
would never go there, and because again, it could come back to what you were just saying about you have to keep that level of like, I say perception, but it is a case of being that front of like what you are and what people see you as. And
do you think there's an argument for people that may be perceived to have less kind of kind of social power, or I don't know what the right word is, or status, social status? There's more pressure on them to open up because there's maybe more to potentially lose in their head to someone, and this is not disrespecting Tesco, big up Tesco, but maybe someone that has just got a quiet job, who works in Tesco's but is not doing well for whatever reason. Is it easier for that person to come out and have a conversation about how they're feeling than someone potentially who
that's
has
in
this
the public
status,
domain of just being in
who's a shop owner, and it's not just you have the shop people, like say you do a lot for the community. This is almost like a hub. So is there that worry that if you
that definitely has crossed my mind more than once, and it probably is, when these things happen, when people come in and they kind of shine a light on what they're dealing with, and then you think about what you're dealing with when they leave or when you get home, and you think, like, would I lose all that? It's almost like it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because you not that you'd ever resent anyone coming in, and I don't, because I try and help as many people as I can just through being here and being a shoulder to almost cry on, or just an ear to listen through, but I think sometimes if I was to be real open and frank about how I'm feeling, and maybe how disheveled I am and a little bit kind of not with it, that they would probably think, don't know if I really want to go in there now. He's off his tits. I don't know. That could be a thing that's in my head.
I had that exact same thing. I remember one of our really, really early podcasts, and I think you sort of referenced like a little surprise almost when we first started talking to each other, because I was, in your eyes, someone that had really got their shit together. That was the phrase. And that, like, I think I was really, really good at giving that impression, and I think you've been really, really good at that as well. And I think a lot of us are, but it's really quite exhausting. I'd formalise, like, the idea of this being a place where it's safe to come and like just talk if you just need to talk. It doesn't have to be about anything. No. It can just be a place to talk, because then ideally what happens is you have people coming in to talk and they just end up talking to each other, and then you can still get on with work. Maybe start selling coffee. Monetize it. All right.
Package, if you spend £50, I'll talk to you for this one.
There's grades.
£10.
But you are
monthly subscription.
I think you are probably just as famous for the Cove and stuff. I mean, I went on a date and spent 20 minutes talking about you, because it just happened. I mean, the date didn't go particularly well. There wasn't a second, but we both, the only thing we probably connected on was the fact that, like, well, I know Chay, isn't he brilliant? Yeah, he's great, he's fantastic. At no point did any of us go, really worry about him though.
And you know.
But how many times have you been asked, "You all right?" and you've gone, "Yeah, good, you," and you've not been?
All the time.
I got a real hang up with that, haven't I?
Yeah.
That's definitely And that's almost just a auto response, though, isn't it?
But you think that people, if you say no, actually I'm not, that will freak people out. And do you know what?
Yeah.
It does a few. But that's fine, because if they don't ask me again, I can deal with that. Because I know that they don't mean it.
Comes back to what you say,
it's just a natural thing.
Would you think that would be a bit of a throw off with people actually coming in here? Because you think, I might be going in there and he's depressed.
Yeah.
Or he's talking all this stuff, and I think I'll order online next time. You know?
I've got to return it. I'll give it away.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
No, I think you'll have the opposite effect. I think you'll end up with more people going, you know what, I listen to that or whatever.
Yeah,
don't worry, we've not got mad crazy reach. No. I mean, you're going to help with that, you know.
Yeah, but I
the cool biker guy with tattoos.
But I wish I thought that years before. I feel like I'm at a point now where I am turning a corner. I feel because there's a lot more stability in my life now. The grieving process, although I think it will always be there because it is a chapter of your life that just always remember fondly. You can always forget about the crap times growing up, but there's things that are just so close to your heart that you know you'll never get that again, and that's just something that will stay with you. But you know,
I think you just get to a point where rather than being sad that it's over, you end up really happy that it happened. You know, really happy that bond existed. I mean, I think people have lost grandparents and lost people where they had so much regret and wish they'd done other things and stuff. And you know, you.
Well, I mean, case in point, the other day I was looking through some pictures to dig out because my mum has gone through pretty much every hairstyle you could think of during the 80s. It was Mother's Day, obviously, so you're looking for all these, you know, hunting for the bad ones.
You can send us some.
Almost
we can edit them in.
Good. It's like turned full circle.
Yeah.
Because I posted about them, and then I was having messages like, "Oh, your mum's hair is so
And then
cool."
you thought,
like,
actually, I could
do
do
this. It's just gone full circle. And I'm the one with the. You can imagine Kitty digging these photos out. Dad with the fucking plaits. Like, oh, cheers then. But I was looking through a lot of the old photos, and obviously you've got tons of my nan and granddad, and when I'm a baby, and then into a toddler, and then into a teenager. And for a long time, I put that away. Didn't want to look at that because that would just be too much. And now I can look at it and think, well, you know what? I'm so grateful I've got all this now because I can remember all these lovely times, and it's not just about those last year, 2-year feelings of seeing what they had turned into near the end, where they, you know, didn't have a granddad in his case didn't really have a clue what was going on half the time. And for a long time I was holding on to that being the be all and end all of what he was, and now it's a case of, you know what, he had a great life and he raised an amazing family, you know, with my mum and her siblings and stuff, and we're a very, I say we're like bum chummy family, but you know, we're a close enough family where we all care. Yeah. And that's all down to them laying the foundations of what our family were, and you've got to be eternally grateful, and that's what you try and carry on through your family, and kind of, you know, with Kitty growing up and just making sure that she knows that she's got a family that love her to bits and want the best for her regardless of our situation. But
as you go through the photos, is there any fashion sort of things that your granddad always used to? Was there anything that like would be symbolic of him that you could bring back?
To me and my friends, like growing up, he was called the Don. I tell you, if you watch Goodfellas, he looked like he'd be out of that. I mean, he was a Cockney guy, but he loved a leather like zip jacket and like some slacks, some proper shoes. He had silver curly hair, moustache, and he'd always go to the bookies every day without fail. Like, I'm off to the bookies, and yeah, he'd come home and like on a good day, if he won, it'd be happy granddad.
But probably more socially than anything else. A bit like the environment you've created.
So he was always known as the Don because he had that kind of good fella vibe, you know, Sopranos vibe coming off him, and that was a cool thing.
Has the Cove ever done a leather jacket?
I've sold leather jackets,
but not your own.
No.
There you go, the Don. That's your next.
Maybe
this time next
the Don
year.
Collection.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure you'd have loved that, but.
So I want to kind of come round to like, because you said positive and going forwards and stuff, and I think that's half the battle sometimes. I think for the first time in a long time, I am actually looking forwards and looking forward to things that are going to come. And I talked to, there was another friend of ours that's going through a relationship breakdown and stuff, and you know, not dealing with it very well, but everything that was being talked about was looking back and, well, I could have done this differently and I could have changed that, and what if I'd done this and stuff. And the minute that person sort of turned around and started like going and looking at a flat and making that first step, it was no less sad, it's no less shit. You know, you've been through it, I've been through it in the last year. It's a really shitty thing to go through.
Yeah.
But the minute that you start looking forwards to things, that for me was where I've started to like be, wow, okay, there is more to life than just feeling like shit.
Definitely these last, like, you know, this last year, as much as it is, you know, been a real weird year for everyone, it's probably the first proper year where everything's felt a little bit more settled. You know, it feels like I know where I'm going forward, you know, with my new relationship and kind of how that's growing and the help that she's given me, which is, you know, I couldn't have asked for more. Kitty growing up and knowing that, you know, she's got two parents that aren't obviously together, but they, you know, love her equally, and obviously that side of it is taking shape for what, you know, she's doing and stuff as well. And yeah, I feel like, yeah, I'm looking forward now as opposed to just thinking, well, what else could piss me off, or what else can be a hurdle.
I think when you're in that mindset, sometimes like you're waiting for something to happen, and even if it's not that bad, you just catastrophize it anyway and go, oh, for fuck's sake.
Do you know what? It's when there's nothing to worry about. That's when it's the worst, because then you go and find something to worry about.
I don't know if you can relate to this, but sometimes almost, this may sound even weird and unrelatable, but almost hoping something happens to give you a reason that if you are feeling a bit crap, that is a reason to be that way. And I think there's no cure for this. There is not. There's being better with it, but there's no official 100% cure to people feeling down and holding on to things sometimes. And there'll be days where, you know, I will have it, and we all get it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know if I was going to say this a while back, but like, I don't know if you ever get that feeling when the night before, and you know you're going to have a crap day the next day. Does that any of that relate to you at all?
It did, and now I don't.
But you know what I mean.
But I will sort of. So I'm going to go into work on Sunday because I love a Sunday session now working, because it removes that Monday feeling of like and things like that.
Right.
Never go to bed in an argument. You know, I used to do that all the time. Bed with really bad feelings. Oh God. But it is that sort of, you know, I think not working from home as well is a big difference, because now I switch off when I finish work. Now sometimes I might not finish work till 8 o'clock, but I switch off when I finish work. And yeah, I definitely used to relate to it, but now I'm like much better at getting up, and it's that finding that reason. Well, okay, hang on. I was just throwing it out there because I was. But no,
that
definitely
wasn't just like a one-off thing. No. You just felt. I'd go to bed and like I knew exactly in the morning that my stomach would feel churned, and I wouldn't be looking forward to the next day at all, because you knew there'd be something that would come up, or in your head you built up something that would come up. Tottenham playing, yeah. Well, that's fucking
2-0 up. Nothing can happen. Can't lose from here.
Mate, crap defence. We'd get games, I think.
I don't know.
But I don't think I'd want to play for him. No, not now.
I don't think us touching on sports and mental health positivity, Everton Spurs fans is going to.
You've got Man City tomorrow, so yeah, it's not going to
end. FA Cup tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd be very Everton. It'd be very Everton to dick them though. Like lose at home to Burnley, then go and beat City.
Back and beat City 1-0. Yeah, that'll do me tomorrow.
Yeah.
But no. So the positivity and the looking forwards and things. And you're right. It's not. You don't just get better and stop feeling like shitty. You get better at coping with it, and there's coping mechanisms.
And that goes back to obviously my main point of me being as I was. I've definitely felt a release in kind of feelings towards, you know, it being all negative. And now it's got to, like I say, get to the point where I will look back on it fondly, and I can talk about people a bit more now. Whereas before, I wouldn't even want to hear their name because it would just be too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's come with stages. Like I say, it's just growing as a person and just being able to let go of certain things. And like you say, it's something that you just evolve with in time. I mean, and it becomes what it is year on year. I think, you know, and that's just something that is a natural thing, isn't it? But it's just so hard when someone's telling you that is going to happen, and you're in the midst of it, and you think it's not going to happen at all. Like, you don't know, you climb in this head right now, and you tell me exactly what you're saying when you're looking at all these weird thoughts that are going through my mind right now, and then you'd be shocked, I think. So it's just something that like I say, you kind of learn to live and deal with, but you're starting to find a lot more positives in kind of what this new part of your life is now. And like I say, it's just a lot of change to deal with in such a short amount of time. And some people can cope with it, some people can't. And some people take their time with it, and some people can just be like, right, that's me now.
I was going to say, there's no set time limit on when you should be cured or feeling better.
No.
Some people are quicker than others. Some people just refuse to even acknowledge that they maybe need to speak to someone, and that just takes away time of their life that they won't get back.